The Mesozoic era is the second of three geologic eras in the Phanerozoic eon, and saw the emergence of several major animal groups still living today, including snakes and lizards, mammals, dinosaurs, and true sharks. It is split into three time periods, collectively lasting around 186 million years. The Mesozoic gets plenty of attention in the media, from various paleo documentaries like Dinosaur Revolution and Prehistoric Planet to films such as The Valley of Gwangi and the Jurassic Park franchise. However, there are many species that get overshadowed by better known animals, some of which are arguably more interesting. To shed light on these unique animals, here are 5 Mesozoic animals that deserve more attention. Vertebrates have been attempting flight since the Carboniferous period, and would eventually succeed by the Triassic with the evolution of pterosaurs. Prior to this, though, animals would usually modify their ribs to be able to stretch and glide them between trees, like modern Draco lizards. Charopteryx, however, took a different approach to gliding. It was small, around 10 inches long, and lived in Kyrgyzstan during the late Triassic, alongside another unusual lizard-like reptile, Longisquama. It is generally agreed to have been a protorosaur, which were early relatives of archosaurs, the group of reptiles that would later include dinosaurs, pterosaurs, and crocodiles. Charopteryx's most unique feature was its long hind legs. A skin membrane would have stretched between its legs and onto its tail, and possibly up to its front legs. This membrane would have allowed it to glide between trees, although how it got into the air and rested on branches is debated, given the disproportionate size difference between its fore and hind limbs. Sharks date back to the Ordovician period, but the 8 orders that exist today trace their lineages back to the early Triassic or mid-Jurassic. Among the most imposing orders living today are the lamniforms, or mackerel sharks. This order doesn't include a huge number of species, but it does include some of the more ferocious predators, like the great white shark, shortfin mako, and salmon shark, as well as some of the more interesting looking species, like the basking shark and goblin shark. However, these apex predators started small. Paleocarcharius was a small shark around 3.3 feet in length from Germany and France during the Middle Jurassic. Unlike most extinct sharks, it is known from exceptionally well-preserved fossils, giving scientists a great understanding of what it looked like. It resembled modern wobbegongs, having a flat body, wide pectoral and pelvic fins, and proportionately tall dorsal fins. Like today's wobbegongs, it likely led a primarily benthic lifestyle, lying on the seafloor and ambushing small fish and invertebrates. Despite its erectolobiform-like appearance, a 2023 study favors its placement within lamniforms. Modern crocodilians are often called living dinosaurs due to their prehistoric appearance. Though the term is inaccurate, as crocodilians are only related to dinosaurs, the prehistoric appearance is one that has hardly changed since the Mesozoic. Some extinct crocodilomorphs, however, are quite a bit different from most of their relatives. Razanandrongobe was a large crocodilomorph from the Middle Jurassic of Madagascar, belonging to the group Nodosuchia. Most Nodosuchians were generally small, omnivorous reptiles, and some were even herbivorous, but Razanandrongobe was the largest, reaching up to 23 feet in length, potentially weighing up to 1 ton. It was likely a terrestrial predator, with evidence showing adaptations to a diet containing bones, and it likely occupied a similar niche to large theropods in its environment. Its teeth had serrations comparable to those of tyrannosaurs. It represents the oldest known Nodosuchian, leaving a 42 million year gap between it and other species, and it seems to have been closely related to Sebecosuchians, which were primarily Cenozoic-aged terrestrial crocodilomorphs. Dinosaurs are an incredibly diverse group of reptiles, with around 700 to 1,000 extinct species known and around 11,000 living species. Throughout their reign from the late Triassic until late Cretaceous, a time span of about 150 million years, dinosaurs evolved dozens of unique skeletal features, many of which are not seen in any living animals. Some features are, however. Irritator happens to share a feature with modern pelicans. Irritator was a smaller spinosaur from early Cretaceous Brazil, growing to around 26 feet long. It received its name because the paleontologists who described it were frustrated to discover its skull had been artificially elongated. Not a lot besides the skull is currently known, but despite this, it had a rather unique feature unseen in its relatives. Similarly to today's pelicans, a 2023 study suggests that Irritator was capable of expanding its lower jaw to catch and swallow large fish. While it most likely did not have a throat pouch, this ability more or less granted it the same results. Mosasaurs are among the best known marine reptiles, largely in part to the Jurassic World films. These oceanic lizards were generally large, although much like plesiosaurs, whales, possibly ichthyosaurs, and the thalattosuchian branch of crocodilomorphs, they started small and on land. By the end of the Cretaceous, mosasaurs were large apex predators found around the world. They all shared the same streamlined body plan, except for one species that had something none of the others did. Megateregius is among the more average-sized mosasaurs at 20 feet long. It is known from a single, almost complete skeleton found in Japan. Its name, large wing, comes from its large flippers, both pairs, which were longer than its 2.6-foot long skull, the hind flippers being longer than the fore flippers, a feature seen in no other mosasaur besides for Tylosaurus. Additionally, its dorsal vertebrae exhibit a strange orientation similar to that of delphinoid whales. This suggests that Megateregius possessed a dorsal fin, making it the first known mosasaur to have such a structure. So, there we have 5 interesting Mesozoic animals. Were you aware of any of these? I like to try to mix well-known and more obscure species together, as the lesser-known animals are often just as interesting as the big-name ones. I personally usually prefer the more obscure species, simply because they're more obscure and sometimes they're more interesting. Like I said in the Paleozoic episode, I just made this to share cool creatures and also provide accurate information about them based on my own prior knowledge and proper research I did in this world of AI Dino Sludge videos. Anyway, hope y'all learned something new and interesting, and I'll see you again in the final part of this.